Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Malachy here for the Food Equipment Service Leaders Summit 2021. Another amazing session is about to go down. You are in the right place, ladies and gentlemen. I have with me today Josh Zolin, CEO of Windy City Equipment. And this is from one-man show to the CEO of an 8-figure business, growing and scaling. We're going to talk all about that today. He's the author of Blue is the New White. He has a podcast, also Blue is the New White. It's groundbreaking. It's hitting the skilled trades hard. And it's exactly what the next generation needs to hear and see, along with our own industry. And when you put all this together, you have a guy that really is just forging his own path in this industry. I'm going to welcome right now. You're in for a treat. I'm welcoming right now my friend, Josh Zolin. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here and excited to share whatever insight will help anybody who's watching.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know I gave you a little intro, but maybe another quick little, 30 seconds on who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm CEO of Windy City Equipment. Actually, my dad started this business back in 2003, and it was just him. You alluded to it, one-man show, right? And so he did that for a number of years, probably about 5 years or so. I came on in 2008. I headed out from California when I got tired of the film industry. And I didn't know the first thing about this business. I'll just be honest. I didn't know anything. I was completely green, didn't know how to turn a wrench, any of that. He taught me everything that I know about being a technician, working in the field, turning those wrenches, and eventually I made my way into the back office, and I said, hey, you know what? There's a lot of opportunity here. Let's see if we can take advantage of it. And that's what we did. So the next, 12 years or so are history, and we've grown now from working out of my dad's garage to having 4 branches in 3 states, 35 technicians, 55 plus employees, and just about 8 figures in revenue. So it's been a wild ride. And as you also alluded to, I wrote a book along the way called Blue is the New White. Once I realized what kind of opportunity was actually in this industry, I realized that, hey, no one ever talks about it. So I started the conversation.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And so family business, right? We're going to talk about scaling a family business and how, I mean, there's ups, there's downs, there's pros, there's cons, just like anything in life. So talk about starting out. So you're with your dad. How is the dynamic between you and him when you got started? Because I know from personal as well, working with my dad, it could be tough.
It can be, but you know what? I was lucky. My dad and I have a great relationship, and quite honestly, it's probably because I didn't get a chance to spend a ton of time with him growing up. It was one of those situations. My parents were divorced when I was young, so got to see my dad every other weekend. He got tired of the cold back in Chicago, right? And he decided to move out to Arizona when I was like 17. So that I think that when we came together in the business, that really helped us. But of course, it's still a father-son relationship, right? We're going to have disagreements every once in a while along the way. And, it's all about how you handle that. And that's what I'm excited to share today, because I think that this industry is riddled with families and legacies, taking over from their parents, their grandparents, however far down the line. And I think that some of the lessons that I've learned to overcome a lot of those things, other people can put into practice and see the same success.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we have challenges, right? For our day-to-day, we have so many challenges. And when you're in that family setting, that dynamic, here we never came to physical blows, but we came to we had words. And so, I would say some of the biggest challenges. Now, do you have, for anyone watching, is there anyone else in your family that's in the business? Any siblings, anybody that is working in the business with you?
No, I've got friends in the business that I've
Okay.
brought into the business, which I know is a topic of conversation in itself.
Yeah.
But no, just me and my dad as far as family.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, and that's the same thing here. I brought some friends in. That's another tough situation, tough dynamic as well. But we'll save that for summit for the food summit 22. So handling disagreements, we have here some. We're trying to figure out some solutions for maybe those people stuck in those dilemmas. Handling solutions on trying to make decisions and stuff along those lines. How did you come to? I know, because I'll give you an example. For me, getting software about 10 years ago, we were on paper and pen. I had to fight with my father to get up on technology and to start understanding we can't scale this thing with paper and pen anymore. So handling disagreements and trying to find solutions in the business as back from 2003 to 2008 to where we are now. What are some of those things? How did you handle these disagreements? 'Cause I'm sure you had some.
Yeah, there were definitely disagreements along the way, and it was hard for me coming in because, before I got into the company, people didn't call Windy City, right? They called Joel. That was it, and it was basically when I came in, it was my job to take the company from Joel to Windy City Equipment. And in between those two was Joel's son. I could have probably legally changed my name to Joel's son for a very
It's so
long
true.
time, and nobody would have known the difference. But with that, it's not like I'm a vain person or anything, but there's a lot of struggles and challenges with knowing that you're responsible for a lot of the changes that are happening in an organization, but getting zero of the credit. You know what I'm saying? It's
I
something you learn to live with, and you learn to develop that humility. I talk about that a lot in, Blue is the New White and the podcast and stuff like that. That's one of the things that the trades help people develop, but it does come with challenges and disagreements. The one thing that I could tell anybody watching or listening about disagreements between you and a family member is that at the end of the day, you need to remind yourself that both of you have the best interest of the company at heart. Whatever the disagreement is, it's probably at the heart of it. It is a disagreement on how to make the company better, right? And so everybody cares, both of you, all of you, however many members of your family are in your company, they all care about the organization. And if you can remember that, it makes the disagreements a whole lot easier because at the end of the day, you're fighting for the same thing, you know? So if you disagree on how to get there, that's one thing, but you're never going to disagree on getting there.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the perfect answer, because that is the truth. I mean, at the end of the day, with these family businesses, we all have our voices. We're all sitting here trying to say, well, we think we should do this, and I think we should do this, and the common denominator is, yeah, we want to move the company forward in a positive light. I mean, we're not trying to. You're not. No one. Neither one of us are trying to hurt the mission. So yeah, I mean, that's a critical thing for family businesses out there watching and understanding, because there's so many family businesses in our industries, so many. And I know that they're struggling trying to figure things out, especially with the generational shift, like you said, handing it down from father to son and his grandfather. I mean, however long, how many decades that you've had it in your family. So I know I hold a lot of lessons close from my dad, even though we're not super close at this point in life, unfortunately. But lessons from dad. What are maybe one or two things that you remember early on that dad is in the back of your head every friggin' day of your life?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Rich. And there's a laundry list, there
Yeah.
really is. I was a bit wayward before I made my way into this company, and he taught me so much. I think that if I had to pick one thing above and beyond the work ethic and the integrity and everything else that came with, his old school mentality, it would be the power of a handshake. All right. And that's why this COVID thing's been so tough with
Yeah.
me, right? Because I just love to shake people's hands and that's all I want to do. But he really taught me how to nurture relationships, right? And that business and growth and everything is about the power of connecting with somebody, with multiple people, even more so than communication, the quality, the service itself. It's about connecting, with those that you serve.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you on that. That's I think that's one of the major key components to we're going to, as we talk about scaling, you can't scale without those relationships. You can't scale without those, the
That's
good
right.
old hand. Well, we don't want to do that anymore, but the good old handshakes, those you can't discount those. I don't care if it's 2021, 2031, 2041. There's never going to be a replacement for that face-to-face handshake, going to a conference, going to RIFMA, places like that, and sitting down at a restaurant or a bar and having a cocktail or a coffee or whatever it is you might be doing, and building those strong relationships. I mean, and we could talk. We'll talk more about that as we talk about scaling a business. But I just wanted to say, yeah, that's key component. And I'm doing my best here in Jersey, doing the thing, and I'm trying to follow your lead a little bit. So yeah, super important. The next thing I think I wanted to touch on was what. So obviously your dad, same thing with me. You came in, but I mean, this is your company. This is your company now. So what would you say you probably came in and did a little differently than your dad to begin scaling? I know the handshakes and the relationships. What did you begin to do over the last maybe 5 years or so that has brought you to where you are now? What have you done differently to begin scaling and so fast?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is probably the same thing that anybody of our generation would say, right? Is the technology that I introduced into the company. Before I got on board, my dad wasn't even accepting credit cards. I mean, it was cash or check only, paper invoices, and that worked. It worked for a one-man show, and worked for a long time and worked well. But as as we moved forward, the use of technology and being able to stay ahead of the curve, especially in this industry, because typically this industry has kind of lagged behind, right, as far as the technology is concerned. But that's really what I did differently. It was baby steps. One of the things that I've taught my dad over the years is how to be open to change, right? Which is another thing that helped us scale to the point that we're at today, and is going to continue to help us scale. But technology was a tough one for him.
Yeah.
So we had to start small. We started accepting credit cards. We started using electronic calendars. Finally got him on online banking in like 2012
Yeah.
or something like that, and then it evolved from there, because each one of those steps you have to prove, especially with somebody in that mindset, right? You have to prove that it works. So you got to implement it, give it some time, prove that it works, then you move on to the next one. And eventually we built that up to, a website, social media, dispatching software, integrations, and now it just seems like the technology that we use is endless. We just had a conversation this morning about the technology that we use, and how many different pieces we have. So I think that's the biggest thing that I did differently about, with running the business. I also had a little bit more of an analytical mindset. He's very much relationship based. He'll swear up and down until he's blue in the face that he's not a businessman, he's a technician. And I think I had a little bit of the business mindset more so than he did. So those two things I think are the biggest things I did differently once I came aboard.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So now we're fast forwarded. It's 2021. Your leadership team, I'm just going to kind of go rogue here a little bit as well. Leadership team, when hiring and firing and stuff along those lines, Gary Vee said, hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. And I love that. And, in this industry, it's just like any industry, we always say, oh, it's so hard to find good people. Because if you're good, you're working and they're taking care of you wherever they are. But hiring and finding the leadership team that you put together, can you touch on anything about your hiring process, putting your leadership team together? Can you touch on any of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you said, it's hiring is guessing, firing is knowing. And those are lessons that you can't really teach. You can hear Gary Vee say it, you can hear Rich Maliki say it, and even me, but until you're in those situations, it means very little.
Yeah.
It's difficult advice to heed because a lot of times those lines get blurry, right? You want to do 18 interviews before you hire somebody because you want to make sure that they're the right fit, right? That every impulse in your body is telling you to do that. And then adversely, you give somebody 25 chances because you don't want to let them go. You want to make sure that the decision that you made to hire them was the right decision, if it was, you know.
Yeah.
So it's definitely tough. I've got a large leadership team. I like that old adage, many hands make like light work, but I've kind of tweaked it to many minds make better decisions. And so I've brought people up in the company to the leadership team. I think there's a total of like 10 of us in that room now every Wednesday talking about different things. And I think at the end of the day, right, it boils down to trust. That leadership team, I trust them with my life, I trust them with my business, I trust them with everything. And we all had to work to get to that point. There were a lot of disagreements along the way, you know, but it's part of it is about being able to disagree respectfully and step aside from your own ego, right? There's a lot of people out there, I think, that once they get the title of CEO or manager or, supervisor even or whatever, they get this false sense of ego, if you will. And hey, I know best. That's why I was promoted into this position. That's why I'm in this position. Well, sorry, but a lot of times you don't know shit. And that's just the bottom line. And you have to be humble enough to realize that you're surrounded by people because those people know more than you do. And so I think that that's the biggest lesson I've learned, and I've made my own mistakes along the way. There was a lot of times, especially when I was younger, that I thought I was the smartest one in the room, and
Yeah.
I was dead wrong. I lost some good people, and then I had to gain more good people and not make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely interesting trying to navigate all of that. For me, just to continue this conversation, because I think, people are probably the most important piece to the puzzle of scaling and growing. And, finding your right hand man or right hand woman, whatever it might be. For me, it took a lot of time to get to where we are with the people in the office and operations. We always say the technicians are the lifeblood of the company. They're everything. They're everything to driving the business. But the truth of the matter is, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes is really just as crucial. I mean, you could destroy your entire company from the backside. The back end operation is so important. So we always focus on text, but the leadership team, the operations, the guys and gals in the warehouse, the dispatch. I mean, these are such important positions to keeping the support staff, keeping these guys running on the road. Right hand man or right hand girl in business. Do you have one? I don't know if you want to drop names. Someone you lean on every
Yeah,
day. You want to talk a little
absolutely.
bit about a right hand man or woman in your organization?
Absolutely. Because I don't get an opportunity to do this very much, and yeah, so my COO, his name is Miles. I actually went to high school with him. So, expanding on our conversation earlier about bringing on friends, there's a lot of, I just want to say before I talk any more about him or what he does, there's a lot of negative perceptions out there about bringing in people that right?
Yeah.
Friendships, existing friendships. And, a lot of it is definitely it's true, and you know, you need to be very careful with that. But on the flip side, if it's handled correctly, it could be the best thing that you do for your business.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it boils down to trust, right? So you bring in somebody that's excellent at everything that they do, they have impeccable credentials, they still are going to be earning that trust from you for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you know? And so when you bring in somebody and the trust is already there and you just have to teach the other pieces, if it's done correctly, it can have an astronomical effect on the business because you know from day one that no matter what they know or don't know, they're always going to act in the best interest of the company, you know, and that's one part of it that people I think often overlook. But if there was one piece of advice I'd give, it would be just be incredibly blunt from day one and
Mm.
say, look, I love you. And this is what I did with Miles and everybody else that I've brought into the company over time. And, you know, I said, look, this is business. I'm bringing you in because I trust you. I'm bringing you in because I know what you're capable of, you know, but if we find this doesn't work, I'm going to have to let you go. I still want to be your friend. And the same goes for you. If this isn't working for you, you quit and I will still be your friend, you know, but it has to be separate and it has to be one of the most blunt conversations that you ever have. It can't be misinterpreted. You can't dance around it. Don't add fluff to it. You know, tell it exactly how it is. And then the power that can wield in the future is just it's fantastic. So I that's what I did when I brought in Miles, and I brought him in 2014 with the intention of him being a part of the leadership team. And you know, I can get into the story of how I knew he was going to be good at it if you want. It's kind of a funny
Yeah.
story. I don't think I've told it before.
I want to know.
All right.
The,
So
the audience watching, they want to know.
the audience is going to change the channel once they hear this. But no, okay. So I grew up with Miles. I went to high school with him. We were roommates for a little while after high school, and you know, so I knew him really well. One of my best friends, and I've always had this throughout my life. I've always had this knack of noticing things about people, small things that don't pertain to, you know, what I'm actually thinking about, but are indications of what else that they would be good at. Okay, it's this weird ability that I don't know where I got it from or whatnot. But so an example to that is in 2014, we were looking for somebody to come in and improve our processes, our systems, our procedures, somebody that we could develop into an officer of the company in an operations role, right? And we were still pretty small back then, so our resources were limited, and you know, we had to be very selective. So I remembered back, right? And Miles and I had not been trying to get him into the company in any way, shape, or form before this, right? But I thought back to the time that I spent with Miles as a roommate, and I remember when he used to make a bagel sandwich. Okay, don't change the channel, guys. Don't change it. I swear I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, he used to make a bagel sandwich, but it wasn't. It was the best bagel sandwich you'd ever seen in your life, right? But it wasn't the ingredients. It was the process in which he made this bagel sandwich. You know, how hot he heated the bread and for how long and in what order he arranged, you know, everything on the sandwich and the presentation and everything afterwards. It's simple and it's stupid, I know, but I thought back to this and I was like, man, if he can make a process like that, if he was passionate about making a process like that for a damn sandwich, you know, I wonder what he could do in an organization. And and of course, look, it wasn't just the sandwich. He had jobs since then, and you know, I knew that he had a system driven and process driven mind, but that was the first thing that stuck out in my head. So, you know, that's when I brought him on. So with the trust and everything else, and he's blossomed. He's my COO now, and he's the man behind the curtain.
Man.
You know, I may be the face of the company, but he's definitely, you know, the one steering the ship.
Wow. That's a great story. I mean, that's a great story. I mean, people are out there probably, and you know what? It is simple. You're saying, oh, it's stupid. It's really not. I mean, he's paying attention to detail. I mean, he's passionate about making a sandwich. I mean, I think that's a great little nugget for people to take away, when doing the hiring process, whether it's a friend or not. I mean, listen, there's inspiring things in the making of a bagel sandwich. I mean, come on.
I love bagel sandwiches, man. What can I say?
Yeah, me too. Bacon, egg, and cheese in Jersey here. I mean, we love it. So yeah, so now we're here today. You're an Inc. 5000 company today, and we're looking forward to the future. We're obviously we're still feeling the pandemic. Numbers are down, I think, across the industry, but we're all holding our own. I know me and you have stayed in touch throughout the entire thing, and you're back full swing. You've been back full swing. So what is, from your standpoint now, going into 2021, 2022, what are some of the thought processes and thinking that you and your leadership team are putting together to say, okay, now we're approaching the 10 million mark, we're ready to go, now there's another next level. I mean, what are those meetings looking like? What are we talking about? What are we looking towards?
That's a loaded question.
Is a big one, and you
It's a
can
big one.
answer however you need to. I'm not telling you to divulge your secrets, but
No. And you know what? I mean, honestly, I'm happy to give any information that could help anybody out there. A lot of, so our meetings are really focused around a few things right now. Communication is number one.
yeah,
Communication is always important in this industry. Probably, I would argue, the most important thing in this industry,
agree.
especially now, right? If 2020 taught us anything, it's how important communication is across vendors and customers and employees, and everything, just so important. But as the company grows, it gets harder and harder to communicate, right? It's compounded because you constantly have more and more avenues of communication. I mean, even adding one more person in a company full of 55 people is exponential in the demand of processes for that communication. So a lot of our conversation revolves around solidifying our processes, solidifying our procedures and our systems and how we do things, because up to this point, even up to about 2020, of last year, our growth has been so fast, it's been chaotic, right?
Yeah,
I classify it as chaotic growth. I have a team that puts their foot down, digs their heel into the dirt and just goes. When this pandemic hit in 2020, I had a team of 20 people in the company that just, what do you need me to do? Let's go. I mean, any way that we could drum up work, any way that we could pivot, any way that we could help our customers stay relevant, and so, but now as we break this $10 million mark, it has to become more strategic, because otherwise we risk tripping over our own feet.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that's a heavy conversation, and it's a tall ask, from a team of doers to you know transform into a team of thinkers working on the business rather than in the business, which
yeah,
you hear about all the time. So
yeah,
that's been a huge topic of conversation, is just being strategic in our growth.
yeah. Yeah, and putting these, and I, you mentioned you have weekly Wednesday service meetings, correct?
Leadership meetings.
Leadership meetings. So that's not something that we typically did here for a long time. And starting this year, that was one of the new implementations for us. So regardless of whether you're at 55, 60, 70 employees, or like us, we're around 30. I think as you begin to grow and scale, it's important to put those leadership people in the room once a week to go over, the growing pains, some of the issues you might be dealing with, maybe give some kudos on some good things we're really, hitting on, and maybe try to, double down on those things. So for me, I just want to put that out there as we have this conversation, talking about communication. It is everything. It's everything with internally. It's everything externally. It's really what probably would separate the bad from the good from the great, however you communicate. And, for us here, and I know you, communication, communication, communication. It just said it's honestly, when you look at service companies, what's the differentiators? Warranties, all this stuff. How about communication? When you have people understanding the mission and the vision every day, when you have people firing off from all cylinders, and Josh knows what Miles is doing, and you all are in sync, it's the game changer for your customer, for your partners, for everyone, and in your employees. So I wanted to circle back one more time, though, to transitioning, from a small family business to scaling it to where you are now. And I know for me personally, I'm up and down with my strategy on how I want to scale this. I know I'm laser focused right now with what we're doing, but there's different things in the back of your mind about opening in new markets and things of that nature. Scaling from the one location to you're in Austin, right? Where are your locations?
Houston, Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, Tucson, Arizona, and Phoenix, Arizona.
4 markets. That to me, from just a guy in Jersey trying to build things, that to me is like amazing, quite honestly. It's amazing to me to see that happening, because I don't understand all the moving pieces that it takes to get to that. And I'm not going to have you, give me your business plans on how you did that, but for maybe for those, transitioning and they're saying to themselves, okay, I'm in Idaho, and now I'm looking to go into Minnesota or wherever they want to go. What are some of those, some key things maybe you could give insight to those people that are looking to branch out and open to new markets?
Right. Yeah. So first, shave your head, because you're going to lose all your hair anyway.
No problem.
There you go. No, it can be very, very stressful. It's challenging. I thrive on challenges, and you have to know that about yourself if you make the decision to expand. What we did was very simple, is we followed opportunity, right? An opportunity can mean one of two things. Opportunity, at least to me, the first thing that it could mean is following your customers. We have a very, very good relationship with a lot of our customers. I mean, we talked about those close relationships at the beginning of this talk, and this is an example of why it's so important, right? I had customers with 90 plus locations in another market saying, hey, why aren't you in this market? If you were in this market, I would give you 90 locations. I said, well, give me a week. No, I'm kidding. It did not happen in a week, but you have to pay attention to those things. And that's that's opportunity number one, is make sure that you build strong enough relationships to be able to have those conversations with your customers. And then the second opportunity, right, is technicians. Technicians are very, very difficult to find these days. We talk about that all the time. That's the basis of a lot of the conversations that I have. Good talent is hard to find, especially in such a niche business, right? In what we do, we focus on food equipment, obviously, that's my background, and then HVAC and refrigeration. And to find somebody with all 3 of those skills is damn near impossible, right? And it's very difficult. So the other opportunity is when you have those rock stars on your team, talk to them, ask them questions, develop the relationship with them as much as you develop the relationship with your customers. Why? Because maybe one day they'll say, you know what? I'm tired of it here. It snows too much, and I would rather be somewhere a little bit warmer. Well, really, where are you thinking? Oh, that just happens to be the same market that a customer said if we were there, they'd give us 90 locations,
Yes.
So,
wow.
So you can start with talent that, okay, we're going to go back again, that you trust, right? To run your organization the way that you do, where you built that reputation.
Yeah.
And that is so important, so we had actually one of our best technicians here in Phoenix transfer out to Houston. So he's overseeing our Houston team. And then I had another technician transfer out to Albuquerque, one of our best technicians. And because this is our hub and this is our base, right? It's easier for us to find and manage talent here than it is in any one of the other branches. So if I have to send somebody who's fully developed and who I know is good and who I know I trust to another location, then that only helps me because that allows me to bring somebody in here where all of my leadership team is close. We can develop more people and then send them more places, right? So, those are the two opportunities that I've followed, going into the other markets. And of course, that's coupled with very much market research and business plans and stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean that's a great takeaway for anyone that is trying to follow your customers. Yeah, like you said, and it goes back to relationships. So if your relationships are not strong with certain customers that might be able to bring you into new markets, it's time to pick up the phone and strengthen those relationships right now. Once you're done here with us, you go do that and start building those relationships even stronger. So, Josh, before we shut down this session, we had a lot of great information here. I think people are going to get a lot of great takeaways. Is there anything on your mind that you wanted to maybe discuss that I missed? Let's chop it up if we have to.
Oh man, I think if I had to interject one thing is, we talked about the family business part of it. We talked about the leadership team, the technicians, expansion, all of this stuff. I just want to, I think, reiterate that it starts with you, right? And everything else has to be cascaded. So, and that's probably the most difficult part, right? Your entire organization is a reflection of you. And to get it to that point takes time, takes effort. I mean, unbelievable effort. A lot of people out there want to say that they want to start businesses so they can be their own boss. And I'm here to tell you that your thinking is exactly the opposite, right? Everybody is the boss of you. And that's just the way that it works when you operate a company like this. But the first thing that you have to do is get your leadership team on board with the culture that you're trying to create, because otherwise it will never cascade and it will never make its way throughout your organization. It goes you, your leadership team, your middle management team if you have one, and then your staff. And it all has to trickle down in a nice web. Everybody has to be moving in the same direction, working toward the same goal, have the same vision, and embody the character of the company itself. And so that part of it is very, very difficult.
It is.
It really is. One piece of advice there: if you're in a leadership role, stop telling people what to do and start asking more questions. Questions are the secret sauce. All right. If you're listening, the only way that most people will absorb anything is if they come to their own conclusion. So you can tell somebody something till you're blue in the face, but if you ask them and gently guide them so they figure it out for themselves, you will have a much easier time developing those around you and enabling the growth that you're hoping to see.
Yeah. Damn. I was listening to you as a mentor just there. So I kind of, because I'm and again, family businesses, small businesses that are out there across the nation and the globe that are hopefully going to come across this and see this. We have great attendance already. We got great numbers here watching. So it's one of those things that you really have to. It does start from you. It starts from the top. I know. For me, I always say, and I say all the time, I own it. Whatever is going on in this organization, whatever's going on here, it starts with me. It's what I've allowed. It's what I've accepted. And the same goes for anyone out there. When you're leadership, it does start with you, and it does trickle down. My father always used to say, "The fish stinks from the head, kid." So, we got to tighten that up, and it's not easy. You're right. It's not easy. It's very, very hard. And, like you said, I want to be my own boss. starting your business, be careful what you ask for, because
Yeah.
you are 100%. Yeah, you know what? I'm the owner, I'm the CEO, the president, whatever you call yourself. At the end of the day, we work for them. We work for them. We put our feet on the floor for the team, for the employees, because they depend on us to make right decisions, to keep things moving in a forward direction, in a positive way. So I'm really glad you brought that up before we ended the session. So there's always more to talk about. We're not done. This is just another segment, bringing it to you for the Food Equipment Service Leaders Summit 2021. Before we go, I want to let everyone know we're going to be doing live Q&A. So be prepared, be ready for that. Make sure that's on your calendar. And if you're in the Facebook group, make sure you post your number one takeaway from this session. Any question you have, feel free to tag myself, tag Josh, and we'll address those on the live Q&A. So the conversation will continue. So get ready for that. Josh, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy and got a lot going on. So thank you for joining us and doing this. And yeah.
Now, thank you, Rich, and thank you everybody who put on this summit. Excited for the future, see where it goes, and let's shake up this industry a little bit.
We're shaking it, baby. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Rich Malachy here, Food Equipment Service Leaders Summit, brought to you by Origo BP and the Fed Group, Fed Nation. Hope you enjoyed this session, and we'll see you on the next one.